Welcome into another episode of Game Changers. Of course, this week we're going to lead off with the Miami Dolphins. Oh, we're going to get to them. We're going to get to them. The Jets, the Bills, the Patriots, all losers, but we have winners here on this set. Jimbo Camper, and yes, his running mate, Steve Goldstein, somewhere in America. There he is.
He's in God's country.
From San Jose, California.
God's country, Steve.
You should be out there.
He's about 3 miles from the greatest city in the United States, Milpitas, California, my friends.
Population 2,000.
Well, when I was there, it was 3,500.
3,500. Wow.
3,500.
How you doing, Goldie?
You know, I had to present my ID at a few places, and 4 different people, as soon as they saw my driver's license, said, "Do you know Jimbo Camper? He's from right up the road. He's famous." Yeah, true story.
True story.
How much did I owe him?
I worked with someone one time, and they said, my buddy Tommy Tran, CBS Interactive, he said, "Do you know Jimbo Camper?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "His jersey's hanging in the rafters at our high school." So I know 2 people from that small town. So there you go. All right, guys, let's talk about the Dolphins, because guess what? They were on the bye week, but they had a bigger week than anyone else. As I mentioned, the Pats, the Jets, the Bills on Monday Night Football all lose. Bo, I'll start with you. The Dolphins wrap up the division this week, and week 10.
The rest of the division is hanging on the vine. It's greasy. They're sliding down.
They're sliding down. I mean, the Bills
I'm going to tell you what, the Bills, my gosh, the Bills fired Cam Dorsey right after the game, and well, I'll tell you what, you look at that Bills coaching tree. You got the guy in New York, Dayball, who may go from being the coach of the year to out.
Yep.
You got Buffalo, where you just bumped your offensive coordinator. Next guy out is the head coach.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you what a turn of events. You thought this was going to be a dogfight.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the dogfight's in the AFC North. This is becoming the Dolphins to own right here.
The Pittsburgh Steelers don't even have to put up any points or yards in their winning games. Goldie, do the Dolphins now have maybe the easiest road to winning the division, maybe in the NFL? I know it's a tough question to ask, but here we are, week 11. They've got 8 games, and 5 of them are at home and might be favored in all of them.
And they might be the best home team in football.
Yeah.
They haven't lost. They score 45 a game. They've won 16 of 18. I should have brought the Mike Cunha whiteboard that we use on the show on the road so I could criticize myself, because I had the Bills as the division still going through Buffalo. Not anymore.
No.
I mean, for them to lose that game the way they did, it is all set up for the Dolphins. You look at the next 4 games, and I know the Jets will be tough. They got a great defense, but the Raiders, the Jets, Washington, and Tennessee.
Ooh.
I mean,
you know, I'm going to tell you what, you get through those first 3 games, you win those first 3 games, you may have already clinched the division.
And that's a home game. And that's a home game, more importantly, in the playoffs. Now, I do want to talk about this week's game against the Raiders, because I know we joked about it yesterday that you're not necessarily nervous about them, Bo.
I am.
But Goldie, what is it about a team that can fire, their front office staff and all of a sudden rally around the interim coach and rattle off a couple wins? Does this make them one of the more dangerous teams in the AFC?
I'm going to say yes. Now, I think Miami wins the game. The Dolphins' defense is getting better and better. They're rested. They're awesome at home. They're going to win this game. But what happens is everybody has a new shot, a new lease on life. All these players on a team like the Raiders, they can now impress Antonio Pierce. The canvas is clean. What they did before is absolutely meaningless. Now, their offense hasn't been great. They changed quarterbacks as well. Obviously, there was dysfunction in there with Josh McDaniels. But Antonio Pierce has done something very interesting. All the practice squad guys are on the sideline. And he said, I want them there because they work as hard as anybody. They deserve to be there. So you get that initial boost, but them coming all the way over to the East Coast, down to South Florida on Sunday, I think it might be a better game than some people think early on, but no, just because they got a boost here and they're a little bit better, they're not going to win.
I'll say this. I'm going to bring up an old Mad Dog line here. I look at that Raider offense, and I sniff it with my nosy, and she smelled not so rosy. It don't smell so good. That offense was horrendous. You know what they did? They beat another horrendous offense on Monday night or Sunday night, whatever night those 2 guys played, because that may have been one of the most boring games I've ever seen. And the offense, it was like pulling teeth to try to gain yards for those 2 teams. So both of their offense are starting. Now you look at the flip side, they got certainly the Jets. That defense is something to
worry
be
about
aware
for sure.
And you got Max Max Crosby and a couple guys on that Raider defense that can make an impact. But look, I think like going back this path that you've got, if the Dolphins just hold their own, compose themselves, don't get ahead of themselves, play the game you're supposed to. Just play you're almost at a point now where this team, you can forget about the scouting report for the team you're playing.
Do your thing.
You just play your best game and you're going to win.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You mentioned some of the weapons.
And by the way, what's with the coffee on the desk?
I'm tired. I'm tired.
And now he brings his own coffee on the desk, Goldie. When you're here,
you got a sponsor,
it goes willy-nilly out here when you're gone.
What's going on there?
Pinky's up. I need a little extra juice to compete with you two.
Yeah.
The life you bring, I'm way down here. I'm a little bit more mellow.
Hey, you got a T-shirt on now. He comes out with his coffee. He's gonna bring a sandwich next time.
I'm gonna have what was that onesie thing that you could put on the head? It was like the blanket with the arms. That's what I'm gonna have out. That's what I'm gonna have out here next. I do want to ask
cocoon.
you. Yeah. Did you mentioned some of the weapons that the Raiders have? Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still a tough cover.
Yeah.
Who do you guys think is asking Mike McDaniel or Vic Fangio this week? Do you think it's X? Do you think it's Jalen going, hey, I want that cover this week?
I think there's three people that want to cover him. X wants to cover him, Jalen wants to cover him, and Kahu wants a piece of him too.
Kahu would like a little redemption.
He's been having a rough couple weeks. He wants to get into the action a little more.
Goldie, what do you think?
Yeah, look, we saw the first time X and Jalen Ramsey on the field together. And, I know Kansas City, they were hot early, but I just think that combination at cornerback is unbelievable. And it's a good point that you bring up because those two guys are such competitors. They're pushing each other. When X gets a pick, Jalen Ramsey wants one. So I think Vic Fangio is just licking his chops as we get into the second half of the season. The defense is getting better and better. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure it matters which one of these guys ends up covering them because the Dolphins, that combination is awesome.
What a luxury to have, to be like, no matter which side of the field it is, you don't even have to switch anything up. Just let whoever's on that side worry about that guy.
And look at what that creates now. You've got Ramsey and you've got X on that side, and you've got multiple other players that can come in and play well. Needham's getting better, and so you got that in the secondary. And meanwhile, at the same time, you're getting those three guys up front, the pass rushers.
Yeah.
You're getting Chubb. Jalen Phillips is back from those 3 games, and he's been a beast since he's been. And let's not forget Van Ginkel, who has been consistently maybe one of their best one of their best pass rushers. They're just getting better and better. So that combination at this time of the year, boy, you couldn't be more happy than being in that room right now.
And even Christian Wilkins up
there
the middle,
go,
4.5 sacks right now. That ties a career high in sacks.
Yeah.
And he's still got 8 games left on the schedule.
Well, let me tell you what, his first 3 games were nothing special.
He's come on strong.
So he's come on strong in the last few games. He's come on like a house on fire.
Figured out that defense, they've all been catching fire. All right, guys. Thanks so much. We're going to keep the conversation rolling. We're going to talk football in the next block. We got to get to the Miami Hurricanes after they lost to FSU. We'll get your thoughts on the U when Game Changers comes back. Goldie's not happy. I didn't even get to the
House
next
of pizza,
block yet.
Goldie. That's your dinner tonight.
All right, welcome back to Game Changers. Mike Cunio, Kim Beaucamper. We are not alone here in this studio. We've got Steve Goldstein on the road in San Jose, California. Probably, what time is it out there right now? It's like noon. Goldie's day is just getting started, but we got a lot to get to here on Game Changers. Let's talk about the Hurricanes football team. They have another change at quarterback. They went with Emory Williams last week against FSU. The kid didn't do too much, obviously, freshman quarterback, just feeling things out, but he showed he's got a lot of fight in him, a lot of dog in him.
Yeah.
He broke his arm reaching for a first down on a 4th down play in that 4th quarter. Guys, I know Tyler Van Dyke's going to take over down the stretch, but did you at least feel good when you compared Miami, what you saw on the field, to a top 4 team in the country? Goldie, I'll start with you. Did you at least feel better about where Miami is at compared to some of the better teams in the country?
Personally, a little bit better, but at no point during that game, honestly, did I think the Hurricanes were going to overtake them. I mean, and that's part of the way Florida State plays. Now, they didn't put Miami away and win by 2 or 3 touchdowns like they do to other teams, but the Noles, until they get going in the game, second half, 4th quarter, they don't really blow teams out. So was it encouraging, Mike? Yes, but the hope was that this season, this team would take that next step. We talk about that next step with the Dolphins. We talk about the next step with the Panthers. Can you take that next step and not just hope to be good and compete with the good teams? Can you win those games?
Yeah.
And, they fell short. That's the bottom line.
Let me tell you, I watched that game. I was encouraged by the Hurricanes. I didn't think they could stay with that football team. And by the end of the game, I'll say this: I like the Hurricanes football team. I like their players, their coaching staff. They're struggling. That coaching staff has looked inept since they didn't
the Georgia Tech game.
Since the Georgia Tech. You look every game after that, there's been commotion on the sideline. They can't get people on the field at the right time. It happened against Florida State. They have problems with their coaching staff. Unfortunately, they're fighting with each other. They're battling. The problem to me is not their players. It's that coaching staff. They got to get their act together.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, they're going to lose some of these players. That portal is going to be on the way out. They're going to get people coming in, but you're going to have a lot of these guys coming out because they're playing well. They should win games that the coaches aren't allowed them to win. If I'm a player, I've never been on a team where I looked at a coach and I go, I don't think he knows what he's doing. I bet you there's 20 guys in this team that are going, hey, I don't know if I want to come back here because I don't know if our coaches can coach us up the right way.
You don't want to be the school that gets poached in this era because, look, Miami's got a lot of talent. And, Goldie, to your point, Miami could have won that game, but it would have felt like they stole the game, right? It wouldn't have felt like they would have won it outright.
I feel like every week on this show, when we talk Miami Hurricanes football, you bring that up. You bring it up every week.
The coaches.
That, hey, they could have won this game. Hey, the NC State, North Carolina, you could have won, but they don't win them.
But
that's
because
the key.
I think they have. I absolutely think they have the talent on that team.
No doubt.
I think they're one piece away, and I think it's quarterback. To be fair, the quarterback play hasn't lived up. You're talking about if you get just an average quarterback in there, I think they win more of these games. Do they go up there and beat Florida State? No, but you look at what they did in the trenches. The freshmen had time to throw.
Yeah.
The defensive line, by the way, should have been a safety in the first half. Like
100%.
They're getting to these top flight players, top flight quarterbacks. They're messing up Clemson. They're messing up Florida State in the trenches. To me, that's where it starts. And so that's why I do believe that this team has talent to be better. They're already a win. Yep. They're going to be a bit improved as compared to last year.
What happened when Ruben Baines says, "Hey, you know what? Nah." I like those Gator colors. I like those Florida State colors.
You're absolutely right. All right. Let's move on. The Canes
makes me ill thinking about it.
The Canes do have Louisville this week. We'll see if they get on the right track. I do want to talk about the Heat, Goldie. I want to ask you about this because you know what? You mentioned you with the Bills. You had to own up for maybe that mistake of them. I got to own up for maybe giving the Heat a little bit of a hard time on this show because I wasn't necessarily a believer. They've won a bunch of games in a row now. Tyler Hero's hurt. That's obviously a problem. But do you feel better about the Heat now than you did after that 1-4 start, or do you think this is just, you know what, they caught a bunch of bad teams?
No, you know what? Then the 1-4 start was because they caught a bunch of good teams.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't really have it both ways. They lost to Milwaukee. They lost to Boston. I think what we really need to watch is something, Bo, you brought this up the last couple of weeks. Max Strus leaves, Gabe Vincent leaves. This has been going on, by the way, since Pat Riley landed in South Florida nearly 30 years ago.
Yep.
They find guys, they develop guys, and those guys, as the season goes on, get better and better, and they mesh and become a team. And to me, they're definitely a playoff team, and that's what this regular season is all about. We know about Bam and Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero. Can they get one or two other guys that maybe people aren't talking about right now to get that much better? And, if you go by history, they've got a great chance to do that. So I just look at this team and coached by Spo. It is very early in their process. And yes, Mike, they're better than the bad teams.
Yeah.
Maybe not as good as Milwaukee and Boston. And that's why the record is what it is. You play the schedule as it comes.
Yes.
I was a little concerned early on that this team was going to bury themselves deep again, but all of a sudden they're turning around. And again, look, Jimmy Butler, first few games really not doing much. All of a sudden he's become Jimmy Butler. Tyler Hero's out now, but still you're getting scoring coming, and you're getting scoring coming from the young guys.
Yeah.
The young guys. Hawkins. I can never prounce his name. Jaime Hawkins. Look, I've grew up in California. I've been around a lot of Mexicans, and I've never heard someone with those names. Usually it's Javier or something.
Right.
Jaime Hawkins.
I don't know.
How's that J pronounced that way? Anyway, he comes from UCLA, the greatest college basketball program of all time, and he's helping this. But I think it's those young guys that are growing into the roles that some of the other guys that they lost last year.
Josh Richardson too.
And they're kind of getting into that role early in the season, not later, as some of those guys did last year.
Yeah. Look, I agree with everything you guys have said, and shame on me for just constantly overlooking the developmental part of this. But you know what?
He doesn't look at the nuts and the bolts. He's a glamour guy.
It's hard when you wave.
He looks at the bells and whistles.
Listen, when you wave Damian Lillard in my face all summer and then you don't get him, I'm concerned. So that's where the concern is. That's where the concern is. All right. The Heat are also hot. So are the Panthers. Goldie, we're going to talk about that next on Game Changers. We got to talk about how they roughed up the young kid Connor Bedard this week against the Blackhawks.
Goldie, you get a shot at him? You get an elbow to him or something?
Didn't.
You go down to the ice and give him a little rough.
Who didn't.
There you go.
I got in there.
Game Changers coming back. Welcome back to Game Changers. We just talked about the Miami Heat, who have been red hot, but we got to give our credit where credit is due to the Florida Panthers, who after a slow start, they themselves have turned things around here. So let's go out to San Jose. We got Steve Goldstein. He's traveling with the team. At the time of this taping, they've got the Sharks coming up, but the Cats have won, 4 in a row now, Goldie? How have they kind of turned this around and start to look like the Panthers we saw in the playoffs last year?
Well, they were playing okay before this streak. Pucks just weren't going in the net. And, they look at all the analytics and the underlying numbers, and it's such a long year that Paul Maurice said, hey, I'm fine with our offense. Barkov's going to score. Kachuk's going to score. And what happened was, it helped they have Sam Bennett back the other day, but pucks just started going in the net. And, they lost the first 2 games of the year on the road. After that, they went 9-2-1 over the last 12. So, they also had a lot of home games where they've been dominant. Teams come in and they can't really beat them. I mean, they've lost 1 regulation game in 3.5 weeks. So Sam Reinhart is just having an unbelievable season. 11 goals already going into that game against the Sharks. And there's just a lot of belief on this team. They go to the playoffs every year now, making that run last year. Nothing at all phases them. And I'm very impressed and a bit surprised they've been as good defensively as they have been without Montour, without Ekblad, who
will be coming back. Oh no, Zoom! We got Zoom! Zoom got Goldie. Oh man!
Whoa. I was gonna ask him a buttery question about Paul Maurice and how he's doing. How's he's got these guys getting up early and winning games.
You know what? No one motivates like that guy. If you remember the end of the season last year, Paul Maurice yelling on the sidelines.
There was that one you can see that picture. You can see that picture. You can read his lips, and you knew what he was saying. And from that moment on, it looked like they took off. So I'm trying to get to Goldie and saying, hey, now he's at this level. Now how does he get them? How does he get that team to play at that level throughout instead of waiting until tend to squeeze in on the final day of the season?
You had Matthew Tkachuk's dad even chiming in, trying to fire those guys up. And hey, look, it worked. And I'm glad to see the Cats have figured it out so they don't get off to these slow starts and get into a hole early.
Hey, but your Heat, they're coming around.
I know
they're coming around.
Look, I was wrong on the Heat. The Panthers and the Heat are both kind of finding their footing here. The Heat went from third to last in the Eastern Conference to now third in the Eastern Conference. They're moving around.
So you think about this, if you project out in these teams and the way they're going right now, you figure the Panthers are going to be pretty high up in the
they'll make it.
They'll make the playoffs in there. And the Heat are going to make it where they're going to be, where they're going to
be top 6.
We're going to be in the ladder. Right. I say it would be up there a little bit. So now you got expectations in these things. Now you got expectations of you're in.
You
Now
better make
you're
a
in,
run.
you better win. You better
Yeah.
you got to get past where you were last year, which is a big bone to chew on for both of these teams.
Listen, last year I thought having a baby in the summer was going to be perfect because these teams had struggled through the regular. It was the worst time. It was like, hey, you better get back here because these teams will not lose. Yes, it's very funny.
Yeah.
So we're sorry we lost Goldie. We'll try to get him back for the next segment. But hey, yes, the Heat and Panthers are doing well.
I keep telling get a better phone, Goldie.
Dude.
I tell him, get a better phone.
You know what it is? It's the Bally's app. It's the Bally's app crapped out on him, too.
He carries that old Apple computer, that new one, that first one that came out.
First generation.
Yeah, the first generation. He carries that around with him. Your Zoom's not going to work with that kind of equipment. Goldie, spend up a little bit, man.
Come on, Goldie.
Come on.
Get it together.
You're letting the fans down.
I know. All right,
Much less us.
We'll get to what's trending. We'll see if we can hook Goldie back up here, but more coming on Game Changers.
You bought one of those cards.
Welcome back to Game Changers. Mike Cunio, Jimbo Camper in the flesh, and the Wi-Fi wonder himself tuning in via Zoom. San Jose.
Goldie, come on, man. Get another phone.
Man?
Here, I Venmo'd you $50 while you're off, so you can get
Pay
back
your
online
bills,
again.
dude. What happened?
Jeez, man.
It's 2023. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. It's not anybody at our end, but I got logged out of something because they only let you stay on for a certain amount of time.
Say it. It was George Perez, our producer. Just say it. It was George.
No, it wasn't him at all. George is terrific. John Mays is terrific. Everybody's terrific.
All right.
You know what's terrific, Goldie? When a guy can lose a job and still make over $70 million, I wanted to get your guys' opinion
I want to lose that job.
On Jimbo. Good work if you can get it. Guys, is the system broken? I mean, for Jimbo Fisher, Bo, to get $70 million plus for doing a bad job.
It is unbelievable, unconscionable that that can happen. And I know Jimbo's probably not very happy. I think Mrs. Jimbo is thrilled with what's going on here. It's just, I don't know. I mean, they keep throwing money at these guys and throwing money at these guys. Look, Jimbo won a national championship at Florida State, so if you want to pay for that, but man, I tell you what. I don't know. I'd give somebody, $5 million and keep going until I find one that can coach.
Right, and Goldie,
get rid of them every year if you can't coach until you find that guy. But
in this era of players now making money in the NIL, this is not a good argument for schools to say, look, we can't afford to pay players when apparently you just write a $75 million check for the guy who didn't do a good job and is leaving. What do you think, Goldie?
Yeah, no, look. The AD was with him before, went to Texas A&M, wanted him. I don't blame the system. I don't blame Jimbo Fisher.
No.
That's just an ignorant contract to give out. And by the way, Michigan State almost got caught with the same thing, but they were able to get rid of Mel Tucker because there were some allegations, sexual allegations, some things. So they're going to get out of paying him his $80 million. But I don't think it's the system. I think it's that particular school just being totally irresponsible and giving a ridiculous in a buyout, a ridiculous amount of money.
At some point, you give people so much money that the comfort level that they get in, you went from a nice 3-bedroom ranch in Tallahassee, and now you're in College Station, in a $20 million mansion there.
Right.
And my chef cooks good dinners and everything. I'll be a little late for practice today.
Not as callous as he used to be.
Coach, go ahead and coach him up. I'll be there in a little. I just think when you get that much money, there's got to be a little I remember the Dolphins. They signed a kid. Was with one of the first free agents. Came in, gave him $17 million. He was knocking on my door the next day, and he was asking me about the golf course. And I go, "What about the team?" He goes, "I don't care about the team. I want to play golf." I go, that was a bargain that they got. So
hey, another one. Hey, you know what? I'm not going to blame him, but
money changes the way people work sometimes, especially when you just pile it on.
Yeah, just the direct deposit hits. Go ahead,
you
Goldie.
mentioned the Dolphins. How about Byron Jones? I know he was hurt.
Man. Yeah.
There you go.
He
disappeared.
He didn't have a lot of interest in grinding it out and getting back on the field once.
He had one guaranteed year left, and he took full advantage of it with the Dolphins.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Aqua and orange money spends really well.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
maybe they'll throw some of that cash our way for game changers.
Hey,
but we like to
hire
work.
Kenny Dorsey. Hire Ken Dorsey. He's looking for a job at
At Texas
A&M.
or bring him down to Miami. Maybe he can help fix that offense. Bring him home, huh? I mean, I'm not surprised they got rid of Dorsey, because I guess they had to have a fall guy. But man, he was the darling hire a couple years ago. But
yeah.
Bo, you take him in Miami if there's no.
Well, but look at him last year. He was the golden boy. You know, Dable was out. Dable had gone to New York, and he took the spot. And look, they played really well, and he was the next hot guy. And he's gonna, probably would have gotten some head coaching opportunities this year. But now, now it's like, hey, now it's like, now it's their coach going, hey, look, I'm gonna protect myself and puts this guy out here. Let him take the heat for what's going on.
Goldie, you think the Bills are in a tailspin? You think they recover from this 5-5? Are they going to make the playoffs?
That's the amazing thing. Are they even going to make it? Forget about winning the division. I still think they do, but it doesn't look good. And this is kind of a continuation of what people are concerned about with Josh Allen. They ask him to just do so much. There's going to be turnovers there. And again, he leads the league in turnovers. But I'll tell you this, firing these coaches, in hockey, Edmonton's got the best player, Connor McDavid. The coach was there 2 years, 40 games over 500. They made the conference final. They just fired him this week. I'll tell you this about Ken Dorsey. With the job he did, in Carolina and with Josh Allen, someone with a young quarterback is going to snap up Ken Dorsey.
Yeah,
I still think the Bills, by the way, get into the playoffs. I
don't think he's going to be in the unemployment line very long.
I think they'll get in. I think, look, there's – you look at the roster on that team. That's still a very good football team. There's no doubt about it. It's just, they've kind of become dysfunctional for whatever, for as good. As horrific as the story was last year, that became a very good story in the end. This has been a total disaster.
Yeah, it's been rough. And look, I think they'll beat out teams like the Titans, like the Steelers, who are kind of on the edge. I think they've got a little bit more talent there. All right, guys. Well, you know what, Bo? I'm very happy Goldie's Wi-Fi worked for at least the final block. It worked out.
I think he called and made sure that he could expense the next 20 minutes on that Wi-Fi.
Yeah. You got your calling cards?
You're not that far. I'm going to tell you what happened. I was using a certain app that you could do this stuff with, and honestly, you know what popped up?
I knew it.
If you don't pay for it, it gives you a time limit. And because we've been on for so long, it cut me off. I swear that's the true story.
Check your Venmo. Bo sent the $50.
$50 over.
Pay your parking tickets.
Phone. Hang on, let me get on my phone here. See what you got. I got nothing from Bo Camper. Nothing.
That's not a Samsung. That's a Ghost song that you got that phone. That's like that $29 you get that at the flea market.
At the gas station when you check out.
On Sunrise, you get it at the flea market for $8.
Refurbished. All right, guys. Thanks for another fun episode here on Game Changers. Goldie, good luck on the call tonight. Bo, we'll see you Sunday. Week 11.
I'll
Dolphins
be there.
and Raiders will be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining us on Game Changers. We'll see you next week.